WNBA and the Indiana Fever did not want people to know that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for the season. I can tell you, from the very day that they decided to let that go public, everything has dropped off a cliff. People were trying to hang on to the possibility this whole time. Look, so many people stayed engaged with the team because they thought the cavalry was coming. She's coming back. We're going to have a fighting chance to win the WNBA championship. The Indiana Fever and the WNBA, they knew this.
Injury, WNBA tickets were averaging $89. The moment she went down, price crashed nearly 30%, plummeting to $62 a seat. That's kind of crazy. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but obviously the biggest reason is Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark literally being out, and again, she's only on one team, but a very big chunk of the total attendance in WNBA is from the Indiana Fever.
Everything has crashed straight off a cliff. The WNBA has officially turned into a comedy show. Ratings in free fall, ticket sales collapsing, and now the Indiana Fever are being shoved, yes, shoved, into playing games in Atlanta, all because Caitlin Clark is out. The league thought fans wouldn't notice, but guess what? Everyone noticed, and the circus is unraveling right in front of us.
People felt like they were going to games thinking this team would have Caitlin Clark coming back to make a championship run. I mean, the perfect example, the game in Baltimore the other day with the Mystics. Nearly 3,000 fans decided not to show up, and they paid for the ticket.
Do you honestly think the WNBA could survive even one full season without Caitlin Clark? Drop your thoughts below because this is wild. Let's be real. There's no hiding it anymore. The league is desperate. The numbers don't just tell the story, they scream it. The second Caitlin's season-ending injury hit, public interest didn't slide, it plummeted, straight down. 1 week, arenas are packed to the brim, ESPN is bragging about record-breaking viewership, and fans are traveling state to state just to watch Indiana hit the floor. Fast forward just days later, empty rows, a few scattered claps, and TV ratings that look closer to late-night reruns than a professional league. The hype bubble popped instantly, and now the league is scrambling to patch the holes. And here comes the genius solution, moving Indiana's games to Atlanta. Seriously? Atlanta? That's the plan? As if swapping cities is somehow going to fix losing the one player who was single-handedly carrying the season. The desperation is showing, and it's ugly.
Moving arenas. So yeah, a lot of teams, whether it be the Lynx opening the Upper Bowl, whether it be the Wings, the Dream, the Sky, all of these teams moving games. All of these teams are moving games for the Indiana Fever, regardless of who it is. They all have to sell those seats. And a lot of people don't want to go, and it's super cheap. Like, it's a lot easier to fill a 10,000 seat arena without Caitlin Clark than to fill 20,000. So you're going to have to find a way to do it anyway, which is what a lot of people are going to be doing, trying to sell tickets. The seats for the playoffs, I would say the Indiana Fever playoff seats would have been, honestly, like nearly $1,000 in. I actually think had Caitlin Clark been playing, it would be nearly $1,000 into this game.
Switching venues isn't problem solving. It's panic mode on full blast. Let's hit rewind for a second. When Caitlin Clark was healthy, the WNBA held a golden ticket in their hands. ESPN couldn't get enough, plastering her face across every promo, hyping every highlight, and bragging about viewership numbers the league hadn't touched in decades. Millions tuned in, clips went viral, and suddenly, women's basketball was the hottest thing on social media. The Fever weren't just another team. They were the show. Every road game turned into a home game because the fans weren't there for the jersey. They were there for her. But here's the twist. The WNBA and the Fever front office already knew she wasn't coming back. They sat on that information, dragging it out, dangling false hope in front of fans, letting people dream of a playoff push that was never going to happen. Why? Because they knew the second the truth dropped, the bubble would burst. And oh, did it burst? Just look at Baltimore. Nearly 3,000 ticket-holding fans didn't even show up. Think about that. They already paid, already had the seats, and still said, nah, not worth it. That's not casual disinterest. That's straight-up betrayal. Fans thought they were buying Caitlin Clark, and instead, they got stuck with plain old WNBAL. And of course, no refund in sight. Now we've got ESPN out here acting like everything's peachy. They roll out these flashy stats about year-over-year growth and highest viewership in decades. But let's keep it real. Those spikes didn't come from the league. They came from Caitlin Clark. Those big numbers? That was Clark lighting it up. The viral highlights? That was Clark pulling logo threes and dropping dimes like a showman. Without her, what's left? A 90,000 viewer snooze fest that barely cracks local attention. Let's put this into perspective. One of the WNBA's so-called marquee matchups couldn't even pull 100,000 viewers. That's not primetime sports. That's YouTube influencer traffic. Some high school state championships are putting up bigger numbers, and yet the league keeps parading around like the sky isn't caving in. Spoiler alert, it's not just cracking, it's collapsing. This is Kathy Engelbert's nightmare unfolding in real time. She gambled the league's future on the idea that the WNBA could stretch beyond one superstar. But now, it's crystal clear. Without Caitlin Clark, the whole thing shrinks into irrelevance. The buzz dies, the trend cycle ends, and casual fans stop caring altogether. And here comes the kicker. The league's master plan is to move Indiana Fever games to Atlanta. Like seriously, that's the fix. A city swap to cover up a superstar-sized hole? It's laughable, and it reeks of desperation. Oh yes, because nothing says we believe in the strength of our league like yanking a team out of its home base just to squeeze a few extra ticket sales somewhere else. Do they really think Atlanta fans are suddenly going to rally around Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark? What's next? Handing out free hot dogs and popcorn with every seat. The math doesn't add up, and the desperation is showing. And let's not act like this is brand new. Sports has pulled this stunt before. Remember when the NBA tried to force certain markets to look hot just for TV deals, even when fans couldn't care less? It blew up in their face then, and it's blowing up again now. You can't fake demand. Fans either care or they don't. And without Caitlin Clark, they flat out don't. Now let's hit the numbers, because they tell the ugly truth. Before her injury, Fever versus. Sky with Clark and Angel Reese pulled in a jaw-dropping 2.7 million viewers. That's bigger than some MLB primetime games. But after the injury, Fever vs. Mystics limped in at just 270,000 viewers. Fever vs. Lynx barely cracked 1 million. And those so-called big markets like New York and Vegas, they aren't moving the needle either. Sure, Aja Wilson can absolutely hoop, no question. But if the casual fan doesn't know her or doesn't care, that's the harsh reality staring this league in the face. And guess what? The players know it too. Don't think they haven't noticed the empty arenas, the vanishing buzz online, and ESPN suddenly going quiet on their highlights. Angel Reese is out here looking checked out, half playing, half sulking, and it shows. Teams can throw shade all they want, but deep down, they know the truth. Their paychecks look fatter because Caitlin Clark was the draw. Without her, those same checks start shrinking fast. That's the brutal bottom line. The WNBA tied its whole relevance to one player, and now that she's sidelined, the panic button's been smashed. Ship the Fever to Atlanta, slap on some smoke and mirrors, and hope a new market distracts from the reality that fans just aren't watching. But let's be real, it's not fooling anyone. And those half-empty arenas? The players feel it too. They can sense the energy collapse. When Clark was on the floor, every possession carried weight. Every whistle got a roar. Boos, cheers, electricity like a playoff game. Now, you can literally hear sneakers squeaking louder than the crowd. That's not atmosphere. That's awkward silence echoing through the stands. Take Angel Reese as the perfect example. One week she's crowned the media darling, the new face of the league. The next, she's protesting minutes, sitting out with tightness, or rumored to be clashing with her team. And the wildest part? Hardly anyone outside die-hard WNBA Twitter even cares. Because here's the cold, uncomfortable truth. Fans weren't tuning in for the side soap operas, they were tuning in for Caitlin Clark. Without her, the hype fades fast. and the silence says it all. The league can hype whoever they want, but you can't force people to care. Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, these are legit stars, no doubt about it. But the cold truth? When their games air without Caitlin Clark in the picture, the ratings tell the ugly story. We're talking 130,000 viewers, maybe 200,000 if ESPN begs people to tune in. And this is supposed to be the future of women's basketball? If that's the future, then the outlook is flat out bleak. Now let's circle back to this Atlanta stunt. What exactly does dragging the fever there accomplish? Atlanta isn't exactly the capital of WNBA sellouts. Their own team has struggled for years just to get butts in seats. So now the league thinks Indiana's roster minus Clark is suddenly going to pack out crowds in a city that barely shows up for its own squad. Come on, that's not strategy. That's desperation dressed up as a marketing plan. Let's call it what it is, smoke and mirrors. The real reason isn't about fans, it's about optics. The WNBA doesn't want cameras catching row after row of empty seats in Indiana. Empty chairs don't lie, and no slick PR spin can cover them up. So, what's the solution? Shuffle some tickets to corporate sponsors, comp half the arena, and pray the broadcast doesn't look like a funeral march. And the sting cuts even deeper because the WNBA spent the entire summer pounding its chest about historic growth. ESPN plastered graphics everywhere, bragging about record averages, about how Caitlin Clark lifted all boats. But those boats? They had holes from the start. The second Clark went down, the water rushed in, and now the league is bailing with Dixie cups trying to stay afloat. And fans aren't dumb. They see right through this charade. You can only sell the illusion for so long before reality smacks you in the face. Look at Baltimore. 3,000 ticket holders straight up no-showed. That's not bad luck. That's fans voting with their feet and saying, we're done being tricked into fake hype. People are tired of being sold excitement that doesn't exist. Even the tired narrative about Clark being just one player has crumbled. Remember when critics claimed the WNBA was bigger than her? That culture, legacy, and other stars mattered more? Well, the ratings ripped that story to shreds. The second she went out, the whole league vanished from casual conversation. Let's be real, the WNBA has a full-blown dependency problem, and it's ugly. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player, she's the oxygen tank. Pull her out, and suddenly the whole room goes silent. Moving Indiana games to Atlanta won't fix that. It's nothing more than rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Sure, the chairs look different, but the ship is still sinking fast. And the craziest part? The short-sightedness is unbelievable. Instead of using Clark's wave to build sustainable hype around multiple stars, the league doubled down on her as the lifeline, while pretending they weren't. Now, with her sidelined, the whole operation is gasping for air and everyone can see it. And that's exactly how we ended up here. A league bragging about all-time high ratings, while quietly panicking over half-empty arenas and fans switching the channel. And don't even get me started on the hypocrisy. Media outlets are out here lecturing fans, saying they should care about women's basketball regardless of Clark. Really? That guilt trip argument has been tried before. Remember the support women's sports because it's the right thing to do campaigns? Guilt doesn't sell tickets. Guilt doesn't move TV ratings. People want entertainment, not lectures. And Caitlin Clark delivered that in spades. Without her, the whole product looks flat. Now zoom out. Every major sports league rises and falls on stars. That's not new. The NBA had Jordan, then LeBron, then Curry. The NFL had Brady, now Mahomes. MLB had Bonds, Jeter, A-Rod. Stars have always been the currency. But here's the difference. Those leagues learned to market multiple stars at once. When Jordan retired, the NBA rolled out Shaq, Kobe, and Iverson to carry the torch. When Brady slowed down, Mahomes took over seamlessly. The WNBA? They shoved every single chip onto Caitlin Clark without ever admitting it. And now, instead of a next man up moment, we're staring at an empty stage. The other stars might be talented, no question, but they aren't pulling mainstream attention. And that's the brutal reality. So here's the million-dollar question the league doesn't want to answer. What happens next season if Clark isn't 100% right away? Because if she doesn't come back at full strength, the WNBA might be facing a crisis that no city swap, no ESPN hype reel, and no guilt-driven campaign can save. So what happens next? Do the ratings tank all over again? Do they scramble to move even more games into random neutral venues? Or do they finally admit that without Caitlin Clark, this league is running on fumes? Let's be honest, the WNBA had a golden chance in its hands. They had viral highlights, record-breaking crowds, ESPN segments every week, and instead of building a stable foundation, they drained Clark dry. Now the second she's unavailable, the whole thing looks exposed. That's not growth, that's dependency, plain and simple. And fans, they're not sticking around out of pity. If your product only matters when one single player is involved, then it's time to call it what it is, a niche league propped up by one superstar. And you know what? That would be fine if they owned it. But pretending otherwise while lecturing fans is flat out insulting. This Atlanta experiment is about to be the smoking gun. If those games flop in attendance and ratings, the league has nowhere left to hide. And if they somehow scrape together a sellout, it'll be off-comped tickets and corporate freebies, not genuine demand. Either way, the desperation is screaming louder than the crowd itself. At this point, the sarcasm writes itself. The Women's National Basketball Association has officially turned into the Clark National Basketball Association, and everyone watching knows it. They can deny it all they want, but the receipts don't lie. Without Caitlin Clark, the ratings crash, the arenas go hollow, and ESPN is left recycling her old highlights just to keep fans from tuning out completely. The league can shuffle teams around, spin their growth numbers, and pump out PR campaigns, but the truth is screaming loud and clear for everyone to hear. Caitlin Clark is the sun of this league, and without her, the whole WNBA is stuck in the dark. That's the brutal reality. So here we are, the league scrambling, forcing Indiana Fever games into Atlanta, and praying nobody notices the free fall. But spoiler alert, we noticed. The panic is real, the desperation is showing, and the league looks absolutely lost without its star. And that's the full breakdown. If you enjoyed this dive into the chaos, make sure you smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more raw, no-filter sports talk. Share this with your friends, and I'll see you on the next one.